So how does it work in Live and Let Die? I heard that they went past Kananga Farm and saw the sign trespassers
Right.
will be eaten, and then we've got to use something with that, and we'll go in and we use the crocodile farm. Was that written like halfway through the film or like through scouting locations? Do you know?
I'll bet it was written partway through, because Mankiewicz, this is the rarity. Mankiewicz was there from beginning to end. There were no other writers on that movie. I think I remember reading something a long time ago. It might have been in that Roger Moore, he called it his Live and Let Die diary. It
Yes.
it might say in there that they originally had an idea for something else, and then they saw the crocodile farm, so they rewrote it to work that in.
Right.
Um,
I'll have to reread it. So it's back there in the library.
okay, yeah, yeah.
I mentioned that it would be nice for Bond actors to do that more often, but I think they probably had that book released and said, well, we're not having any of that because maybe there's production issues or things that go on in set that they don't want to be made public. So anyone keeping a diary or writing anything in their steno pad on No Time to Die would have made a small fortune had that hit the press.
Yeah, because that book, that Live and Let Die book, that's fairly, it's not, strikes me as pretty honest. And
Oh.
I mean, and some things big, some things small. One of the anecdotes, this is one of the small anecdotes. They were in between shots. Hey, we need to get some publicity shots, but he didn't have a gun on it. And so there was like a policeman there. Policeman agreed to lend him his gun, but first the policeman emptied it was a revolver, and he emptied the gun of the cartridges, and then handed him the gun. And I think I've seen what must have been one of the publicity shots from that day, because it's him and Jane Seymour, and he's holding a gun, and it's a revolver. And
Yeah,
Bond,
yeah.
yeah, Bond had a revolver, of course, on and San Monique toward the end, but this was in New Orleans. So this was in the city. So I'm wondering if that gun he's holding was the policeman's gun he'd been lent to
Yeah,
do the publicity shots.
took it with him. I remember less to do with the film, but I know he was really pissed off with his wife at the time because she'd forgotten his birthday. So he
Mm,
was like getting all the kids ready, like the kids were on set, and he was like preparing to go out. And obviously, he's up at the crack to do all the filming, but yet he's doing all the legwork, family work, and it's his birthday. So he goes out, does the filming, comes back, and she's not done anything. And he
yeah.
finally just blows a gasket and goes, "Woman, come on, no, it's my birthday, Jesus H. Christ."
Well, and one other anecdote in that diary was Harry Saltzman is yelling a racial epithet, and what it was there was some crew member who had it. That was his nickname, but he's doing this in the middle of New Orleans, and like, Harry, like, what, like,
Yeah.
I want to tone it down. Um,
Was it in that book where he talks about Harry being a real pain in the ass in restaurants where they would order something and Harry would always send it back? It might have been in
you,
one of the other books, but that's a story that he often likes being told.
I've seen other people tell that story as well, because there
Right.
was like one story when they were like in Istanbul for From Russia with Love, and they're at a restaurant, and Harry's sending stuff back, and Ian Fleming was there, and Ian Fleming finally just orders a sandwich because he's hungry.
Yeah. Or maybe that's what it was. I mean, he's Harry Saltzman, I think, can be given the accolades for all the crazier ideas, right? I mean, I remember him having a story how he ordered all of these sandals for elephants because he
Right.
wanted to have this huge elephant chase an octopus. But he had like some real ambitious ideas for the scripts. I mean, perhaps more so than Cubby. Would that be fair?
Yeah, I think that is fair, because I believe it was Saltzman's idea to have Bond appear to be killed at the start of From Russia with Love. He was like constantly throwing ideas, and like a good many are like impractical, or just they're not good. But boy, when he hit on a good one, it was like,
Mm.
it wasn't just good, it was brilliant. I don't think we would have gotten the Bond series that we got had he not been part of the mix. In other words, if they were just Broccoli productions at the start, I'm not sure we would have quite the same spark. I think that partnership was very fruitful, certainly in the early years. They grew apart. November 65, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation had an interview with the two of them. And so they sent someone over. Now, of course, Saltzman's Canadian, so the CBC host is talking up Saltzman quite a bit, but they're both there participating. At one point, they start talking about the schedule for upcoming Bond movies after Thunderball. And at this point, they were still talking about Honor Majesty's Secret Service for 66 and You Only Live Twice for 67. But then Saltzman starts talking about the Harry Palmer films, which of course he's producing solo. And there's this one shot in the sequence of Broccoli, and again, maybe I'm just projecting, but boy, he looks pissed.
Yeah.
he's not saying anything, but he's looking like, oh, I don't think he appreciated Saltzman plugging his non-Bond projects during that interview.
I remember you saying that anecdote, and there was the speech that Cubby did accepting an award at the Oscars, where this had been after he'd separated from Saltzman effectively and gone through all the legal wranglings.
Yeah,
but he did take time to thank him, because
yes,
he's that kind of guy. I think also when he made up with Sean at the end, I thought that was really sweet. I think it's in the Everything or Nothing documentary where Barbara Broccoli talks about it, how Connery meets him at a restaurant. No, Connery meets Barbara at a restaurant in passing and says, "How is Cubby doing?" And she goes, "Not so well." And then he goes, "Well, look,
he called him, I
he
think.
called him, yeah." And so they had this kind of last phone call, and then agreed that they did something very special. And then she said, and he said, "I love you," and "I love you." And there was that. But I think there's the overall arcing impression I had of Cubby Broccoli for all that was that he's a guy that would always forgive and kind of accept and give someone a chance, and maybe second chance and third chance.
I think Cubby was the more patient, more mellow of the two. It's interesting, and I'm not a psychologist, so I don't know the deeper meaning of this, but both of his partners, Irving Allen in the 50s and then Saltzman in the 60s and 70s, were volatile people. And Broccoli was the quieter one. And I just find it interesting that he latched onto similar types as a partner. Allen was, of course, the guy who a meeting had been set with Ian Fleming in 1957, I think, but Broccoli couldn't make it because he was his wife at the time was dying and he was tending towards her. So Allen goes in his place, and Allen, insults Fleming, and this meeting just falls apart as a result. And that incident probably helped bring an end to his partnership with Broccoli. But
one character has to have the other. Like if he's kind of the quiet, meditative, studied character, then he needs someone that's got a spark up their ass, the creative, the out there. He needs to have that yin to his yang, doesn't he?
Right, because another anecdote like that was John Barry had the two producers over to his flat to play the song "Diamonds Are Forever," and Don Black was there. And apparently, the way the story was told, Saltzman just erupted. He thought the lyrics were disgusting, and he storms out of there. And then Barry yells, "Well, what do you know about making songs?" And then Cubby's still there, and he's kind of trying to calm everybody down. It says, "Well, do you have any Jack Daniels?"
The equalizer.
Yeah.
I always had a soft spot throughout all these stories. I always had a soft spot for Saltzman because I felt like he tried so hard to do too many different things and then kind of got caught up in the wind of all that. Couldn't do what Broccoli did, which was focus on the one thing, the cash cow, but yet make that the best thing that you do. And I heard this story also, like how Connery fell out with Saltzman and said, if Saltzman ever appears on the set again, then that's it, I'm off. And then during one of the films, they're rolling with the film, he's doing something, then all of a sudden Connery stands still and just stops. And people look around and go, what is it? Oh, and then they realize that Saltzman's in the back and he's just turned up to the set for a day. But Connery instantly shut down, he was kind of good to his word. And I just felt how he must have felt like.
because clearly Connery made it known there was no mistake what
Right.
Connery was doing. Somebody, it might have been Stephen Saltzman, his son, said that there was also a period where Saltzman was not necessarily making the best judgment because his wife was ill with, I think it was breast cancer. And so that was affecting, that stress was affecting Saltzman because he got into all this business stuff that he was kind of in over his head. Tom Mankiewicz was also interviewed on that same documentary, and he said, for most people, producing James Bond would be more than enough, but no,
Right.
for Harry, that was just his grub stake. He was even bigger, and he wanted to he did all these business investments that did him in, and he ended up having to sell out as a result.
I think he was a genius in a way, but like many geniuses, flawed and didn't really know where to put himself.